So, does truth really set you free? Hi, welcome to 5-Minute Fika, where we find the time to do a little self-care of the soul by thinking about true and beautiful things. So, honesty, authenticity, fake news, fake everything. These are hot topics today, and they're pretty important because if we don't know what's true, we don't know how to make decisions. We don't know how to confidently make decisions. And a lot of our fears may actually be based on things that aren't true. Let me explain. When I was a student, I studied nursing. I went to nursing school. And in order to practice as a nurse, when you finish school, you must take your state board exams. And usually it takes about 6 weeks after you take your exam to find out if you passed or not. Well, back when I took them, it did. So one of my professors gave us a tip. She said, the state board knows as soon as you finish your exam if you've passed or not. So if you give them a call 2 or 3 days later and you ask if so-and-so is a registered nurse in that state, they'll be able to tell you if they say yes, you passed. If they say no, you know you didn't pass. So I thought, great. So I finished nursing school, graduated, took the long journey from Virginia to Illinois, where I was living. And I studied all summer and I took my exams and I wasn't sure if I passed or not. And 2 or 3 days later, I called the state board, the Illinois State Board of Nursing, and I said, is Heather Ely a registered nurse in the state of Illinois? And they said no. And I thought, what? I failed my exams. So then I was worried and I thought, well, okay, I just called too soon. So I waited about a week and I called back. And I said, hi, I'm just calling to see, is Heather Ely a registered nurse in the state of Illinois? And again, they said no. And I thought, I failed my exam. What am I going to do? I had to figure out what to do with my life. Was I going to take the exam again? Did I have to find something new to study? Did I have to find a new way to study? What was I going to do? When was I going to get a job? How was I going to get a job? Fast forward about 6 weeks and a letter comes in the mail from the Illinois State Board of Nursing. And I thought, well, I'll just open it to see. And I opened it and I pulled out my exam results and I had passed. And I was thrilled, but it didn't occur to me until just that moment that maybe every state does things differently. And because I had heard about that tip from a professor in Virginia, didn't necessarily mean that it was going to translate to Illinois, where I was living. So my fears that I had been facing turned out to just be based on nothing, to be based on an untruth. So I was very relieved and was able to work as a nurse. Well, this story has a happy ending, but a lot of our stories don't when we are living lives that are based on beliefs that may or may not be true. Because, every decision that we make, everything we say, everything we do, the way we treat people, all of it, in fact, our entire society is made up of our interactions with one another, and those interactions are based on an underground belief. And those underground beliefs either rest on something solid, like a rock solid truth, or they rest on sand. So my belief that I had failed my exam was actually based on sand. It wasn't a real truth, even though I thought it was. It actually turned out that it wasn't. We see this in things like gravity. Gravity is one of those things that is true. It's a rock solid belief, whether we believe it or we don't. And so, for example, if I believe that gravity is true, I'm not going to dance along the edge of the Grand Canyon because I know that if I fall, I'm going to fall real far. Now, you can choose not to believe in gravity, which is fine, but if you dance along the edge of the Grand Canyon and you fall, gravity is still going to win because it's a rock solid truth. It exists whether you believe it or you don't believe it. And so identifying what are the underlying support systems for our beliefs is pretty important. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit at 5-Minute Fika is how to identify what's a good argument and what's a bad argument. What makes a belief a rock solid belief versus a sandy belief, which again might sound like a little bit of philosophical mumbo jumbo, but think about what's really personal to your heart and the beliefs that are driving your actions and the beliefs that are driving the way you talk to others and the way you talk to yourself. A lot of people struggle with beliefs like, I'm no good at anything, or nobody likes me, or I can't do that. These are fears, and people live under the weight of fears like this day after day after day without ever really questioning, is this a legitimate fear? Is it based on something solid or is it just based on sand? So you see, my goal is that all of us would feel like we're alive. And it's very difficult to feel like we're alive when we're scared, or when we're anxious, or when we're worried. But what if a lot of those fears and anxieties and worries aren't based on anything that's rock solid? What if they're just based on sand? If you knew that, wouldn't it set you free? Wouldn't that truth set you free? So you could be free to love being alive? That's one of the things that I would love for us to do together. So think about that. I want you to examine this week, what are the things that are driving how you treat others and how you treat yourself? Because I want you to love being alive, because it's good to be alive. And you, my darling, are spectacular. So have a great day.